Hello, welcome to Tina and Karen Do the Tube. I am Karen. It's the middle of the week, August 25th, 2021. And we're all just trying to get by, whichever way we can. And I decided the best way for me to get by is by reacting to some memes. Yes. I had a very interesting day. I've been reading a book about Mussolini. And needless to say, I think one of the things I've learned most about Mussolini is he's a very misunderstood historical figure. This is not a ringing endorsement of the man, by the way. But I think Mussolini gets lumped in with Hitler for obvious reasons, fascist leaders of the early 20th century. But there's very distinct differences between National Socialism and fascism, at least as Mussolini saw it. Particularly, the sort of fascism that Mussolini thought of had no racial element to it. It was a nationalist theory, but it was not. It was sort of a nationalist socialist theory without actually being the National Socialist Party. And from what I've seen, Mussolini had a lot of strong criticisms of Hitler. He was no fan of Hitler by any means. Hitler seemed to be a fan of Mussolini at first, but then again, Winston Churchill was a fan of Mussolini at first. So one of the things we don't understand too much about history is like Mussolini, the man in the 40s, is castigated, he's renounced, he is an enemy of history. But the Mussolini of the 20s and 30s actually had strong approval both domestically and internationally. Now, his popularity waned internationally as it proved that he was more warlike than he originally seemed. Because you have to remember, Mussolini started off his political career as a journalist for a socialist publication. And he was strongly anti-war. But World War I changed his mind. World War I actually changed Mussolini's mind about war, which is funny. The basic idea is like Mussolini kind of started like Mussolini, if he was born in the 21st century, would be an Antifa member today. He would. He was sort of an anarcho-socialist, anarcho-communist, and a Marxist. When he was a vagabond. He was a tramp. He was an anarchist. And it's kind of funny when you talk about how does an anarchist go to a fascist. Doesn't those seem like kind of completely different? No government versus totalitarian government, and it did. It's very interesting. But so this is one of the interesting things about Mussolini is you have to understand that Mussolini didn't start the fascist party or the fascist movement. He merely adopted it. There was fascists before Mussolini. He became a very prominent one. And he sort of moved fascism towards nationalism. Because the early fascists were just what you would call anarcho-syndicalist. They had this idea that eventually states would fall and trade unions would run the world. And Mussolini thought that too. But he thought it needs to be a stronger promotion of the state, stronger promotion of the nation. A merger of state power and corporate power. And when this is actually something I'll admit that I was completely wrong about. When I was researching Mussolini the very first time, when I was going to put out a Politics 101 sort of video essay or presentation for everyone to learn. Here's how ignorant I am. So when I read that quote, which was a Mussolini quote, that fascism is a merger of state and corporate power, so it should be more accurately described as corporatism. What I thought that meant was like a merger of state power and big business power, which I laughed about because that's sort of what I would describe as our modern day world, corporate and state mergers. But corporation had a whole different meaning in Mussolini's day in Italy. It basically, a corporation was another way to say, it's another way to say trade unions. But anyway, the early Mussolini basically had a lot of popularity internationally and domestically because he really did kind of create Italy. right? So prior to like the 1870s, Italy was several faction kingdoms within it, and only in like the 1870s, I said, there was unification of the entire Italian peninsula. But it was competitive and certainly dysfunctional for the first uh, 50 years or so, and Mussolini was sort of the first figure to sort of unify Italy. It's one Italy, North Italy, South Italy, and this should let you know how much he was different from Hitler. It's like Hitler was very racially driven. Mussolini wasn't, because you had to understand at the time of the 1920s, 1910s, 1920s, when Mussolini grew to power, the idea of a unified Italian race didn't really exist. The Sicilians, southern Italians were considered completely different ethnically from the northern Italian people. And there was a lot of different other ethnic groups within Italy. Also, the hatred of the Jews, that was that really didn't exist in Italy, fascist Italy. And now some people would point to like 1938's like laws, as like the anti-Jew laws, to say, okay, Mussolini was no different than Hitler. Well, no. First off, one, he was trying to form an alliance with Hitler by that point, because Mussolini's opinions on Europe, his views on Europe, kind of was like, I'm going to play both sides and I'm going to pick the winner. That's literally what it was, because Italy didn't really join the war effort with Germany until like I think like 1943. I don't know exact. I don't know. I'll have to look back into the year in which Italy really formed a merger with Germany. But Italy, Mussolini didn't immediately align himself with Hitler early on. He didn't like Hitler because of his racist tendencies. Um, they were united in their sort of anti-bourgeoisie, anti-capitalist view. That was the one thing they had in common. But also, I would say anti-Marxist, because Marxist was an international philosophy and Mussolini was a strong nationalist. By this point in Mussolini's life, he had renounced Marxism, even though early on in his life he was a Marxist. And by the way, one of his last dying words is, "I'm still a socialist." That's how he saw himself. We need to always take that into consideration. See, a lot of people like try to pass Mussolini off as some sort of conservative or right wing figure, but the fascism in its early state was like, it was really the left. It's really a centrist movement when you think about it, because it united sort of a worker first mentality, which was left wing, and a pro nation mentality, which was right wing, and this sort of brought everyone together. This is why like people like Hitler are one of the more interesting historical figures, because you kind of want to latch these historical figures onto a movement, and you want that movement to be opposed to your movement. So essentially, the Nazi Party was the evil for everyone, the boogeyman, everyone's boogeyman, because Hitler's economic policies were so vague. Because really, when you get down to it, all Hitler really cared about was anti-Jew. Pro-Germany anti-Jew is the best way to sum up Hitler's whole philosophy. And Hitler thought both the Marxist and the capitalists were equally Jewish. And I thought this whole bit basically just like, because like, so like Mussolini was sort of brought into the whole anti-Jew part of fascism. Not that that's what it was, but like it's just like he's like, we're together, we're united, we're pro-nation, yeah, we're pro-worker, yeah, we're anti-Jew, yeah, what? No, Mussolini. Yes, there were laws put in 1938 that were very anti-Jewish, but like you have to understand, like Hitler and Mussolini had two different ideas of what a Jewish person was. So Mussolini only thought of Jewish as a cultural, religious figure, and he associated that cultural figure with the bourgeoisie. It was a rich. It's you can't be for the rich. You can't be for the bourgeoisie. Whereas Hitler viewed Jews as a race, as an ethnic group that needs to be exterminated, right? So Mussolini, when those anti-Jew laws in 1938 that Mussolini put in, really was more of an anti-bourgeoisie thing. It's like, okay, you know what? You can still be ethnically Jewish, but you got to renounce your Judaism. You have to either be fascist or Catholic. That was his worldview. It's like, and the anti-Jew laws, what we're talking about, wasn't rounding up and exterminating them. It was basically, in order to serve in government or to be a civil servant, you couldn't be Jewish. But once again, that was the idea that you couldn't be culturally Jewish. Not saying that that's a good thing either. Of course it's terrible. But that's how he saw it. It wasn't like, so if we talk about like history, I don't like it when people might lump Mussolini in with Hitler, because Hitler didn't like Mussolini and Mussolini didn't really like Hitler. Their alliance was mostly an alliance of convenience. Mussolini almost said basically that he wasn't going to get involved. He would have joined France and Britain. But because Germany in the early years of the war were winning, Italy said, okay, we're going to back the winner. I'm going to pick this guy. I may disagree with him about this whole racism thing and the whole Aryan supremacy, anti-Jew thing, but at least he's pro-nation. He respects the idea of national borders, and I don't like the bourgeoisie that is promoted by the British and the French. Also, by this point, Britain and France basically renounced him because Italy had waged a covert war in Spain, which was denounced by France and England at the time. And also, Italy had invaded Ethiopia prior to that, and that was strongly condemned. And like Mussolini was like, what the hell? What are you guys talking about? Like colonialism, you guys do this shit. And then, like, by that point in history, like, the colonial powers of France and England were like, no, we've learned. Colonialism is bad. We don't do that anymore. It's like, what the fuck? You're kind of, like, pulling out the rug from underneath me, man. You're like, you're pulling up the ladder, man. I want to conquer. I want to be a colonial power just like you guys did. And, like, Britain and France are like, so what? It's bad. We don't do it anymore. It's wrong. It's anti-democratic. And, like, Mussolini's like, God damn, I hate democracy, which he was. Very much for anti-democracy, not of the people, everyone for the state. But wow, I've gotten a little bit of a tangent. I really just wanted to do a little bit of a meme review, but I was reading a lot about Mussolini. I found it very, very fascinating, very, very interesting, because I think he is a misunderstood historical figure. He wasn't a good man. But he wasn't. I wouldn't put him up there with the Hitler or the Stalin or the Maos, because I don't think I'd have to look in. I don't think he killed that many people, if he killed anyone at all, really. His philosophy was just sort of a very anti-democratic philosophy, which is not good. I don't agree with it. But at the same time, disagreeing with someone is not the same thing as saying they're evil. From his point of view, I think that he realized that there was certain, like he's essentially Putin. Very anti-democratic, very nationalist, almost, and of the worker. I mean, that'd be interesting what Putin's... Putin will be another interesting person to study throughout history, too, because I don't know what that guy believes. I don't really know much about him, other than he's corrupt and that he's an autocrat. But as to what his whole political philosophy... I don't even know if he has a political philosophy. Maybe he is just a self-serving autocrat, like Julius Caesar or something. Julius Caesar had no grand plan for Rome. He just thought he deserved to lead Rome, sort of thing. Anyways, so let's review some memes. That's what we're here for. Let's see.
Hey, everybody! Diane! Hey! Why aren't you smiling? Diane! Where's my copy?
Any other point in history that would have been... No, actually, really right now, that would be considered incredibly racist, but because it's a very stereotypical... But that's how Kevin Hart talks. That's why Kevin Hart's laughing.
Why aren't you smiling? Diane!
It's not a great impersonation of Kevin Hart, but anyways. Cheeky, greedy fucker. I heard about this, actually, yeah. So the baby who was on the cover of a Nirvana album, don't know which one. Sorry, I'm not a Nirvana fan, but it's a very famous album cover. He's suing to get basically paid for the album cover. I can't remember the whole story of it. I don't care. If he's entitled to it, it's a very famous baby shop. I don't know. That's promoted. We skip those.
This is Blake. Here there's a steer that's bloated pretty good. Bloat is just free gas accumulating in the rumen, unable to get out. So we put a device in called a trocar, which you can see he punched in. The skin was of course blocked and the steer didn't feel a thing. Letting all the gas out and the steer's gonna feel a lot better. Thanks for watching.
I don't know why I stopped to watch that, but that's a lot of gas. That's really bloated. I get bloated like that all the time. Sometimes I think I'm fat and really just gas. Also, I'm fat. All right. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Fuck that stupid baby. The state of Kurt Cobain. This guy, 30 years later, deciding after recreating the photo multiple times and getting a Nirvana tattoo that he now feels exploited. Yeah. And pedo panic. Cultural environment where a ridiculous lawsuit like this is actually giving credence and not just seen for the blatantly shameless cash grab it is. Yeah. Yeah. I have to say. I don't know. Once again, I have no strong thoughts about whatever this guy's doing. It does seem exploitative, sure, but I don't care. Sorry for Kurt Cobain's estate. Cat, skip. Okay, this will be interesting. John Cena. It's been months since this happened, yet he still gets shit for it, and rightly so. But I want to hear what they got to say. Know the difference. This is a roided up piece of shit actor who thinks he's a badass and sucks Chinese dick for money. This is Afghanistan's famous comedian Nazar Mohammed, a.k.a. Kasha Swan. He was brutally killed by the Taliban for his satirical jokes on them. Until he died, he was still making jokes and shouting insults at the Taliban. What a legend. This is a real badass who stood up to cunts knowing he would die. Yeah, but I don't know if anyone would draw that comparison. I don't think anyone thinks John Cena is anything other than a shell, a corporate shell. Does anyone think that this guy is like a hero, like a legitimate hero? Like, yes, what's his name? Kaja Swan. Don't know who that is, but if he stood up to tyranny, then God bless him. That's amazing. But who actually thinks John Cena is a hero? Like, really? Other than like dying kids of cancer. It's my dream to meet John Cena. Fuck. Oh, fucking Chinese dick sucker. No. I think the milk is bad. Oh, nasty. Oh, it's a promoted. I don't. Shit. Someone left their inflatable doll on the plane. Oh my god, look at those lips. Let's only look at the lips. Yep. You're about to get good news. After good news, after good news. Holy shit. I don't know if this is a washing machine sort of thing. Sometimes that does happen though, and it's good. So, when you put your clothes in the washing machine, but you forget the cash is in the pocket, and the cash shows up in the washing machine, it feels like you were gifted it, even though it was always your money to begin with. It just feels like you earned it. I found it on the street, no different. My biggest fear is slipping in the shower and somebody finding me doing like this. That's a good one, actually. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
ちょっと水取ってきて。
オープニングザドアクロージングザドアカミングバックインウィザーウォーターボトルセッティングオンアチェアワッチングポリーディングアブックゲティングボードプレイングウィズマイフォーム
ちょっとそれ取って。
ゲティングイットフォーヘムギビングイットトゥーヘムプレイングウィズマイフォームワッチングポトライングトゥースリープノットワーキングワッチングサムシングナッシングトゥーウォッチワッチングポプレイザギタートライングトゥービークワイエットピッキングフィンガリングドリンキングウォータードリンキングトゥーマッチストマックペインオープニングザドアクロージングザドアテイキングアシコンピュータータイピング
I like the watching the porn part. It's like, dude, watching. That's what you do to fill time. Me after playing GTA 5 versus me after playing our Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know it other than the fact that it's Brendan Fraser and people love Brendan Fraser. So, yeah, get this guy in movies. He deserves it. Seems like a kind of overall nice guy. Oh, goddamn promoted posts. Oh!
I really hate when people tell me, like, oh, your car's not reliable. Bitch, you don't even have a car.
Is the horse humping something? That one hurts.
I really hate when people tell me, like, oh, your car's not reliable. Bitch, you don't even have a car.
Your car's not reliable. Before and after losing 150 pounds. Good for you, man. Don't care, but good for you. Bitcoin scam. Man arrested after making over $1 million selling Chuck E. Cheese tokens as Bitcoins. Oh my God, that's amazing. I gotta look this one up. Is this real? Let's see. Average person. Gullibility test, $1. Yeah. So what is the difference between Chuck E. Cheese token and Bitcoin? One has real world value. But that's not a scam though. He could sell at 1 million and then it has a value of 1 million. That's how Bitcoin works. True. If there were enough people who were to legitimately consider Chuck E. Cheese tokens as currency, which there are not, buy Bitcoin, buy Dogecoin, buy Ethereum, buy whatever. Just buy crypto. Sell tickets to heaven. You can't prove it doesn't work. That's true. I wonder if that really worked that way. That'd be interesting. The unbelievably heavy and gigantic mammoth armed with huge tusks walking around. Some random Neanderthal ancestor. All right, I'm going to kill this fucker. Hey, if you get enough of them guys together, works. And you're smarter than them, the mammoth. The human brain. Or Neanderthal brain. Not that into it.
It's human nature, we always want more.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, no matter how much you got of something, then you're always searching for more things.
I think that's ego nature.
No doubt about it.
That's the nature of the ego.
And now it's like, I don't care if I lose everything. I don't care what happens. Nothing really is ours anyway in life. We only borrow it until we die, and it all goes.
Yeah.
The only thing we truly own in this life is moments in time. This is a moment in time for me that will never be erased. And no matter what happens, this is always going to be my time. This will be my moment in time because I lived here and I was a part of this.
Yeah.
You know, everything else, this bag, this watch, these clothes, they will all go.
Yeah.
What does it really matter?
Yeah.
Yeah, your body. Even body will go. This is a shell.
Yeah.
But what's inside, hope to God, lives on forever. I want this.
I like that guy. Don't know who he is, but I like him.
Aha, شيري وين وجه؟ بفكورك تكون نازوانا.
نختار لا خلنا تول بس مدرنا قال له على بريتنا بكون كبرته وغرزت.
شابسا دوسا. يتوجه يا شيخ. بيسا خبيسا. بيسا شو بشير ده وزارة. ويزري ده بس برينر دي ده خبيس. إيه راك از مصطفى. إيه. واخي أنا راح مجرد وفيسر. Da ce care să facă chestii cu șagan. Hașa? Da, hașa. Hașa.
None of it had to happen. Just somewhere in the 90s. Ooh. There's a flat ass in this, unless she's digging into something, but. Haiti's first president, Jean-Jacques goddamn French people. Dessalines called Polish people the white Negroes of Europe, which was then regarded as a great honor. Poland and Haiti. I would like to award you the highest honor I could bestow, the N-word pass. Poland is Polish people are sort of the N-words. I said it. Oh, watch me. The N-words of Europe, of white people. No one in Europe likes the Polish people. Well, okay, so that's not true. So I think in like European history, the most discriminated groups, I think what you would have is obviously the Jews are number one. Number two would probably be the Gypsies. And number three, after that, would obviously be the Poles. If you look at Polish history, they're subjugated over and over and over and over again. It's no wonder they became a very, very, very starchly like nationalist state. What would you expect if you look at their history? You almost have like this like ingrained skepticism of outsiders. So if you look at the history of Poland, I think that they were ruled over by the Russian Empire. They were ruled over by Austria-Hungary. They were ruled over by Nazi Germany. They were ruled over by the Soviet Union. And then like finally they get independence in 1991. And the European Union says, hey, why won't you open your borders to us? Hey, fuck you. That's why. Poland is like, no. No fucking way. No more. Done with this shit. Fuck all y'all. So, like, and then, like, it's really sickening to me, like, someone like President Biden would actually go out and say Poland is a totalitarian, like, dictatorial state or whatever he said. Thugs. I think he used the term thugs. Like, what? Are you serious? Show me any evidence that their democracy is, like, is a fraud. Any. At all. He compared Poland to Belarus. Like, Belarus is like the most fraudulent dictator. It's the last dictatorship of Europe, and everyone knows it's a fraudulent government. What has Poland ever done to sort of basically resist people's ability to vote? You could vote them out. They don't get voted out because they're popular, because that's what Poland wants. Why wouldn't they want that? It's once again, I bring up the example of just like Poland's entire history is being subjugated by outsiders. And then finally they get their independence in 1991 or 1992, then the fall of the Iron Curtain goes, and then the European Union says, why won't you open your borders to us? Why the fuck do you think they wouldn't? Yeah. You know what? Fuck it. Poland, I'm on your side. Don't ever open your borders to that shit. Do you, Poland. You do you. I don't even know a single Polish person. Not one. I love your sausages. But every people on this planet is entitled to self-governance. That's true. Dude, wake up. Nope. Cat. That's a Ron Perlman cat. Look at its face. I don't get that. People prefer coffee over tea or the real pandemic. Oh my Jesus Christ. I like both. Prefer coffee, but I like both. People who judge others for their choices of the real pandemic. Also true. But then again, we all do it. We all judge each other. People are pandemic. Also true. Middle of a fight and he's in the middle of a fight. He's just trying to eat. Just let the guy eat. What is he doing? Oh Jesus. Oh look, Prime is the Constantine. Had to watch for Stormer. I don't remember him. as my general view on them. I could go way more in depth about it. They do more harm than good, and I think they're a disproportionate response to to be quite honest, a very, very minimal threat. There's a certain group of the population that is very well affected by COVID. But for the vast majority of people, they'd probably just... Maybe some of them would get really sick, but then they'd probably get over it. Most people would probably get a little sick or nothing at all. And then they would have immunity. Natural immunity. I don't know why we don't talk about natural immunity. It's so bonkers that we're still talking about vaccines. Like, there's two routes towards immunity: vaccination or just natural infection. And if you believe the studies out of Israel, which I do because they're peer-reviewed, they're pretty much the same. In fact, actually, one might be better, and it might be natural immunity. It's all this, like, two-tiered systems of living where we have, like, vaccinated people and unvaccinated people, and the unvaccinated people need to be treated like trash. We don't even know if they even needed the vaccine in the first place. Test them for the antibodies. Find out if they have natural immunity. God. That's actually pretty good. All right. Well, actually, I've been doing this for a little longer than I expected. About ready for bed for me. For Tina and Karen to the tube, I'm Karen. Go read up on Mussolini. I'm going to do probably a whole video about Mussolini. He's an interesting character. I think like imagine if some like Antifa member like basically realized, hey, this whole Marxism stuff is shit, and changed his mind completely. Sorta. Almost. But managed to still be of the people, for the people, and for the workers. I'll probably do a whole video explaining the philosophy and history of Mussolini. I've also been reading up on Mao. It's a little hard for me to understand Mao, only because I do have something of a hard time with the names. Everything's Chinese. I have a hard time keeping the players in mind. A lot of them I haven't heard before. Basically, Mao was just a violent person, and he just wanted to destroy things. I'm not even joking. That's mostly what his theory was. He wasn't even like a diehard Marxist. He didn't care. I think communism was a sort of a means to an end, and the ends was I just want to destroy. The means was like communism is a good way to destroy things. I think there's lots of quotes I could bring up for you when I do a video on Mao, but it basically just glorifies violence and glorifies destruction. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm not going to sum up Mao being that way. He was a very pragmatic man, and in some ways, you could almost call him a moderate because he was for incremental change. But he also it's funny because he was for incrementalism, but he was also for violent revolution at the same time. It's difficult to keep up. I do a video on Mao once I get a full picture of the man. But Mussolini is starting to be far more fleshed out to me. Yeah. It's almost, I'll be honest with Mao. I'll tell you this one thing about Mao. There's 3 things I've learned about him. He's incredibly violent and brutal. He's a pragmatist. And 3, this is the most important thing, and it's the funniest thing to learn about him. He pretty much became a communist because he's incredibly lazy and he didn't want to work ever. That's true. When he was growing up, he didn't take to anything. He didn't like manual labor and he didn't like business. He just wanted to read books. And like when he finally got involved with the CCP and became a party member and he could just like sort of dictate the things to others, there's a quote, I think something about like how this is the lifestyle he always wanted to live because he could spend all of his times just reading books and eating and being leisurely. That's all he ever wanted to do. He hated manual labor and he hated business. So what are you going to do? Well, he became a teacher. That's one last fun fact just for y'all. If you look up the founding members of the CCP in China, the founding members, not one single fucking worker. Every single one of them were students, teachers, and professors, or journalists. Doesn't that fucking just sum it up? Like, honestly, y'all, like, think about the world we live in today. Who are the ones pushing for all this Marxism bullshit? Is it workers? It sure as shit ain't the workers. I'm a fucking worker. I like my property. I like my money. I don't want to fucking give it all up. You fucking kidding me? I have earned it. The people who are all for this revolution shit are the journalists who are intellectual but at the same time don't produce anything of value. The teachers who are once again intellectual and don't produce anything of value. And the students are too afraid to get a jobs. Honestly. Fuck y'all. Okay. For Tina and Karen, do the tube. I'm Karen. Stay safe and stay hydrated. Love y'all.